You're listening to the Creative Capital Podcast. You're dying to learn about how you can create wealth through real estate investing? Then you've come to the right place. Join in every week as we go over the ins and outs of real estate investing and learn how you too can become financially free. What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Ferrari, host of the Creative Capital Podcast. I'm so stoked and just enthralled with today's episode. Today's episode is a little different than I think any of the other episodes we've done. Yes, we talk about real estate. Yes, we talk about investing and how success begets success and the different levels, kind of like the building blocks of how you can get from 0 to over 4,000 units. But the main piece of today is discussing how you power through the struggles of real estate, of life, everything that kind of comes at you. And it's amazing, today's guest, Mike Morawski, how he actually scaled his business twice. Now, I don't know, I won't ruin his story that he has, but I have heard a lot of people say, what would you do if you had everything and then you lost everything and you had to start over? You know, where would you be? How would you handle things with the knowledge that you have starting from scratch? And it's just a lot of like hypothetical questions. Well, this actually happened to Mike. He actually had to start from scratch. And so the story of where he was to where he went to how he came back down to where he is now, it's incredible. It's amazing the level of focus and drive that he had to get to where he is today. And it's just extremely powerful. There's a ton of things to learn in here. Definitely listen all the way through, because at the end he gives some huge bits of knowledge on kind of how to steer away from the negative things and keep your mind focused, keep your vision in front of you as to where it is that you're actually trying to go. So super powerful show, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So we're just going to jump right in. Hey, what's going on, Mike? It's good to have you out on the show.
Hey, Josh, good to be here. Thanks.
Man, I'm pretty stoked about this show. I was very excited and moved at the same time from the story you had told me previously when we talked, which we might get into a little bit later here in the show. But sure. For those that don't really know who you are and what you do, Mike, tell us a little bit about you and then kind of how you got involved in real estate.
Sure. My name's Mike Morawski. I'm from the Chicago area. Been here in Chicago my whole life, actually. I've been in real estate for about 30 years. I started out in the business. I was in the general contracting business and woke up one morning, just kind of looked at my wife at the time, and I said, I'm burnt out. I can't do this anymore. So wound up selling my company and took a year off. During that year, we house hacked a couple of houses long before it was famous or popular. Went into the real estate sales business. And, you know, it's funny because when I went into that business, I didn't really know what to do. I knew I needed to go get my license, but I didn't understand it. But when we were house hacking, we met a really successful agent. And I went to him and said, hey, could you teach me what to do? And he said, you know, I'll do better than that. I'll make you a cassette tape. And that's how long ago this was. But he made, it's like a podcast today, though. You know, I listened to it over and over and over again. And I believe success leaves clues. And that's why people become successful, because they follow other successful people before them, right? So I listened to that cassette tape. In my first 8 months in the real estate business, I sold 78 houses as a sales agent. And then I went on, built a team to sell over 100 homes a year. 2005, went into the apartment business, saw the market was changing and said, well, it's time to do something different. Always wanted to be in the syndication business. I went into the apartment business and raised $18 million, bought $60 million worth of real estate, which was about 4,000 apartments in 5 different states. I built a property management company. We were managing about 7,500 units. And today I'm in the coaching and training business.
Wow. So the story started out you owning a company, then saying, not really feeling this whole company thing anymore. I'm just going to take a year vacation. You just house hacked a few deals That whole story is crazy. All the different transitions that you had there from one part into the next, and kind of that ladder of success to like 4,000 plus units, $18 million raised. How did that transition work for you? Like, what were those transitions like? And did you feel like it was kind of like a building block, like the next one was building on top of the next one? Or was it just a complete shift of, nah, I'm going to do something else now?
It's interesting. I had a company that was doing $5 million in volume. And in the construction business, doing kitchen and bathroom modeling and room additions, that's a lot of volume. And I just got to a point where I was burned out. I couldn't do it anymore. And I was still banging nails, is what part of the problem was, right? I didn't understand at that point in my life, I didn't understand leverage and how to get other people to do things. So I had to get out of it. So I took that year off to really figure out what to do with my life, and really liked real estate. And that's why I went in that direction. So to answer your question, yes, I feel like I built on top of that. Like that was the next level for me, because I went into real estate and I just did everything that this other successful agent did and followed him verbatim what he did. I did the exact same things, and it just grew from there.
So back in '05, when you kind of made that decision to transition from the realtor kind of salesy side of real estate into multifamily, why multifamily? Yeah, I know you said that you saw the market changing, but were there like some specific metrics there that maybe people should be looking for when they're looking to transition, or what did that look like for you?
That's a great question. So when I was in the construction business, I did a lot of work for Inland Real Estate and for Equity Office. They are a couple of the largest syndicators in the world right now. And I understood the model. So I was in the construction business, did a lot of work in the apartments for Inland Real Estate. And I understood that 4 high school teachers decided one day to go buy a 4 unit. And today they're the biggest REIT in the world. REIT's a real estate investment trust where people can invest like a mutual fund. And so I saw that, and I always had studied that model. And I understood that you raise private equity, you find a great real estate deal. As long as everything goes well and you stay in the middle, everybody makes money. And so I understood that. 2005, the market was softening. And I saw that we weren't going to be able to keep the volume up in the real estate sales that I had been accustomed to. So I said, we probably should go do something different. So I syndicated my first deal. In 2005, I put a little ad in the paper that said real estate investors wanted, and my phone rang off the hook, and I raised $200,000 for a small 11 unit in Chicago, and just grew from there.
That's really powerful. Was there like a mentor that was teaching you these things, or you were naturally learning these economic shifts from being the expert that you were growing your business in real estate?
Yeah, like I said, success leaves clues. I learned that stuff from Todd going in the real estate business. And I asked enough people who were around or affiliated with Inland as a syndicator. Matter of fact, a good friend of mine was an attorney who sat on the board of directors for them. And I picked his brain all the time about the model and how it worked. And I learned from him how to do what I went and did.
Yeah, the best advice comes when you ask, when you actually take initiative and just ask the question. Back in July of this past year, I did a 30-day to 500K money raising challenge. And I asked at the end of every phone call with a potential investor if they had any referrals, if they had anyone else that they thought would be interested in an opportunity like the one I was providing to them or pitching to them. And that simple question allowed me to go from 1 million to $6 million raised in just 30 days. So I love that you mentioned that. It's like the power of asking something will give you, it completely changed your business model, your life. Everything went from let's continue to do this real estate sales thing. And then imagine where you would have been in '08 had you not been learning the multifamily for the last 3 years. But you said, no, I think I'm going to transition because of having asked and knowing what I know now. And that's just super powerful.
Yeah, Josh, there's a famous book out there that says, knock and the door shall be open, ask and you shall receive. You just got to ask a lot.
What book is that?
It's the Bible.
Yeah. Yes. Love it. Love that book. Okay, Mike. So I know you wrote a book titled exit plan. Now, of all the different options and topics and things you could have written a book about, you wrote a book about the exit plan. So I guess first and foremost, what was the driving force behind that? But then also, why is having an exit strategy so critical to the success of any deal?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars I've spent over the years on coaching and training, books and tapes, seminars, and some really great trainers. I've always kind of felt empty, like I was missing something. And what I discovered is that people have great philosophies, great advice, how to find a deal, how to buy a deal, how to get in a deal, how to operate a deal, but nobody ever teaches you how to get out. Nobody ever teaches you when to get out, why getting out is important, how to get out. And when I would syndicate a multifamily property, I would look at that over a 10-year period, right? And somewhere over that 10 years is a sweet spot where it makes sense to do something at that point. And nobody ever talks about that, those types of things. See, exiting a deal doesn't always mean that you are selling or giving up control. It just means that you are doing something to either get out or recapitalize. So at that sweet spot, why not refinance or bring a partner in? You know, I did a deal one time where we owned a 187 unit apartment complex in Dallas, and we owned it with private investors. And we had started to re-engineer the property, turn it around. And I had an insurance company that I was working closely with who said, you know, I want to be part of that deal with you. We recapitalized and bought out the private investors. They made money, went in the next deal with their proceeds, and the insurance company came in and we profited. We didn't give up control. We didn't lose, but we profited on the deal. So where along the line can you exit, profit, stay in the deal? These are things that you need to look at and be aware of as an operator. And I believe that planning your exit starts from the minute you look at an offering memorandum from a broker. You should have that in place or a good vision of where you're going to go before you ever get to the closing table on the purchase side.
That's really powerful. I like that. So I guess I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about what was it like for your business in '08? Because '05, you saw the market softening. You saw maybe what was to come in the near couple of years. And so that was when you made the decision to transition into apartments. So now having all these apartments, what kind of happened throughout that cycle there?
Yeah, boy, tough question to answer, right? So I wish in '08 I would have seen what I saw in '05. And I've asked myself in the recent years why I didn't see it, why I missed it. But I can remember sitting at lunch in 2008 with my CFO, and we were watching TV, and we were watching people walk out of Lehman Brothers with boxes of their stuff, right? And I looked at him and I said, man, we're screwed, aren't we? He goes, yeah, we are. And little did we know that over the next year, everything was going to change in our world and our economy. The way that we knew it was going to just alter everything, right? And so we hit a wall in 2010 as a result of what happened in 2008. And we imploded as a company. So, you know, we had some properties that were underwater and that were struggling, and the investors would have gotten hurt if we would have let them go to foreclosure. And I didn't want to do that. So there were a number of things that I tried to do along the way to keep everybody safe, all the investors protected, keep the company running properly, and it didn't work. So all my best efforts were shot in the toe, basically, and didn't work. The company wound up imploding. I moved money between companies. So I had companies that were very profitable, and I moved money to non-profitable companies thinking that the market would bounce back. Wouldn't be that long, that we would recover and be able to fix all the damage, and that never happened. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, when property values drop 40% and the recession lasts 8 years, it's a little tough to recover in that. You know, Josh, I wound up being charged with mail fraud and wire fraud charges and going to federal prison. Had served about 8 years in federal prison. So,
Wow. How was that like for
it was
you?
awful.
I mean, going from like this extremely successful
Yeah.
business real estate entrepreneur of all this success begetting success and climbing building those building blocks to where you got to thousands of units and all these different companies, and then just to lose it all. I mean, what is that like?
Josh, I made millions and it was gone overnight. And, the next thing I knew, I was facing federal charges. And there were a number of things that happened. And here's the warnings that I want to give the people that are listening. First of all, don't over leverage. I was way over leveraged. I was buying deals at 10 and 15% down. They were throwing capital at the market, the banks were. And so I would advise anybody who's syndicating a deal, who's buying a deal, that they should be 25 to 30% at a minimum in any deal that they buy today. I was underraised in money. I didn't raise enough money to do CapEx. I didn't raise enough money in case there was a problem. We didn't have reserves. It was an issue. I had problems with my offering documents. One of the things that I did with my private investors, because who thought the world was going to do what it did, was I said, hey, listen, I'll never come back to you for a capital call if there's a problem. So I couldn't do that with my investors, right? So I didn't go back for capital call or say, hey, we have problems. I buried my head in the sand. I didn't look at the KPIs. I didn't look at the problems. I kind of thought somebody else was handling all that, and they weren't. So I missed a lot of the red flags. People told me things along the way, Josh, that I just ignored and I didn't pay attention to, when if I would have said, tell me about that, and would have understood at a deeper level what they were talking about, things might have been different. So there's a number of things that I did, bad business choices, bad business decisions. We overpaid for properties and not thinking that the commercial market was going to get hit like the residential market. So
Yeah. What I love about your story is that it wasn't just that it happened and you were like, pity me. Why is everyone out to get me? Now I'm stuck here and it's not my fault. I was trying to help. What you realized was, okay, this is what I did wrong. Like, you had all of that time to sit down, think, and learn. Okay, this is what I should have done better. Okay, I see now this is maybe where I could have not over leveraged or gotten more reserves or raised more money from investors or had the option for a capital call or whatever, all these things that you had learned. And then you took that, and now look at you. You're back at it again. You've basically gone through the cycle of success twice. Most people don't ever get there once, and you had everything, lost it all, and now you've grown back to where you are today. That is amazing. So having gone through all of that, getting to the top twice, how did you do that? Like, what was that like?
Can we talk about redemption for a minute?
Yeah.
So, let me answer your question first. Tenacity. Somebody told me a long time ago, I was probably in the real estate business about 3 years, and I had a client say, Morawski, you are the most tenacious guy I know. And I said, very graciously, I said, hey, thanks, I appreciate that. And ran right home, grabbed a dictionary to look up what that word meant. And my picture should have been in the dictionary next to it, because listen, to be tenacious, you don't take no for an answer. I didn't take no for an answer. My philosophy as a listing agent on the real estate side was, hey, I'm going to prospect and follow up with them. They're either going to list with me or they're going to die. That was my philosophy, but I followed up with people. Listen, I understand that your sale doesn't happen in the first call. It happens in somewhere between the 7th and the 15th call. So how many touches, how many times do you have to talk to a prospect? So equate that to, if you're an investor looking to buy an off-market deal, how many times do you have to talk to a seller who's thinking about selling somewhere now or in the near future? Do you have to stay in their barnyard in order to be able to be recognized when they're ready to sell? But Josh, I really want to talk about redemption. So I went to prison and I lost everything. Prison's a really dark place, a lot of evil. It's ugly. And when I got there and I thought my life was really bad, it got worse. So it was probably gone about 30 days. My wife decided she was going to leave me. She left. I have children that I still don't talk to as a result of this. But there's a saying in prison that says, hey, you have two choices. You can either do the time or let the time do you. Josh, I decided to do the time while I was in prison. So I went to school, and actually, I'll just back up for a minute. I walked into gym one day. I was probably there about a month, and I walked into gym one day, and this guy said to me, he said, look, don't let these people beat you. Don't let them break you. They can't take from you your mind and your passion. Keep that. And he was right. So I went and I worked out every day. I came home in better physical shape than I ever was in. I worked on myself emotionally and mentally, spiritually. I went to school. 4 years. I got a bachelor's degree in theology. I wrote 2 books, 2 home study courses. I wrote an ethics program. I taught real estate investing, property management, and ethics for 5 years. I taught Bible studies for 5 years. I was on an outreach program. I went into the community and told my story 40 times to local businesses and the major colleges in the area. I just got a paper published in the Business Journal of Ethics that I co-authored with a professor from the University of Minnesota on an ethics case study. So I didn't let them beat me. I came home knowing that when I come home, this is what I'm going to do. So, I have 30 years of wisdom that I put on this platform now for people that I work with and I coach and I train. So that's where the
Wow.
redemption's at. How can I help? Because somebody's sitting on the fence listening to this. Somebody's going to be sitting on the fence going, man, I have this choice in my life or this decision in my life that I need to make. And if I make a wrong choice, my whole world could blow up. So how do you make a right choice? And I say to that person, reach out, talk to somebody.
Yeah, ask. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Ask someone, what the heck do I need to do? Get some advice. Talk to some leaders in the space, some people that you see that could potentially be a mentor or that have already done what you're wanting to do and have been successful. That's powerful. I love that. So going through all that, I mean, it sounds like you were laser focused. You were, nothing's going to stop me. This is what I'm doing. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you're doing over there. This is me. And so it sounds like you did like more in prison than you did anywhere else. Like you did so much there. It's crazy. First of all, what kept you going? What was kind of that driving force that kept you going through that tough time? And then also, how does someone stay as focused as you are? In the day-to-day minutia, working the W-2, dealing with the kids, dealing with the husband, the wife, everything else. How do you stay focused?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wonder sometimes. Listen, success is the best revenge. And I don't mean money, right? I've had $1 million. I don't care. If I get it again, I'll give it away this time. But success is the best revenge. And I wasn't going to let those people beat me. I'll tell you, I was standing in court and the judge said, well, when Mr. Morawski comes home from prison and he's working at Walmart as a greeter. And I thought to myself, you are not going to predestine my life. And that was one of those incidents that I said, man, I'm not going to let somebody pre-frame me or my future. I'll do that myself. And I think you make choices and decisions where you want to go and how you're going to get there. You're either left to drive the ship or not. So it's a matter of personal commitment and putting one foot in front of the next.
Man, I mean, most of the time when people hit a wall or they hit a roadblock, or I mean, you hit like one of the ultimate roadblocks, like you went to prison, like you're cut off from everything that everyone else has access to, their car, their phone, online, talking to people, communicating, all that social media, all that stuff. You hit like one of the ultimate roadblocks. And most of the times when people hit that, they just kind of give up. They just say, okay, it's not for me. Maybe we'll try the next thing. Maybe the next thing will be a little bit easier, or maybe they don't. Maybe they push through a few roadblocks and then they just kind of die out. They can't keep the focus. They can't keep the drive and the persistence. And so I guess I'm just kind of like harping on this, but there's got to be some type of key or secret to your driving force that kept you going. What is that for you?
My background, my dad had a great work ethic, right? And I learned work ethic. I've always had a good work ethic. I don't think I've ever really reached the pinnacle of success, but I've done pretty well over the years. And I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy the game. It's a game to me, right? Building the businesses that I'm building today, it's a game to me. And money's a scorecard, but when I talk about revenge is the best success, I want people to go, I want the people who said, man, he will amount to nothing now when he comes home. I want that judge who said, I was going to be a greeter at Walmart to go, oh my goodness. So it's an internal driving, it's that tenacity that that guy told me early on.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to prove these people wrong. Like, they don't get to decide. This will be me deciding. And I really like that you mentioned that this is a game to you. Now, I've actually heard that there's been some studies done that when you gamify something, you have a higher sense of desirability and drive to accomplish it and accomplish it well. Like, if you're just playing a pickup game of basketball with some buddies and no one's counting the score, you're just walking around dribbling and shooting, then it's just fun. It's hanging out. It's chill. But as soon as you start keeping score and you're trying to get to that 21, you're dribbling like crazy. You're sweating things that you're like, people are screaming like, hey, pass me the ball. And now you're keeping the score. Hey, what's the score? And now that you've gamified it, everyone's taking it much more seriously, and people actually tend to be more successful when they gamify things.
What's funny is that I like to change things and tweak things to make them better to achieve more, right? So I was on the phone with my coach this afternoon, and we were trying to figure out, I have a couple of systems that aren't working. You know, they work okay and they're fine, but I think that we could move them to the next level. And so we tweaked some of the messaging and some of the things that I was doing to see. So now it'll be a great test, right? So now over the next week, 2 weeks, I'll implement these new little tweaks that I put in some messaging in that and see if it changes my results. So that's where the game plays, right? You know, hey, Trump wrote, years ago, Trump wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. And it kind of always stuck with me, right? Because it's like the art of doing something better. How do you tweak it? How do you refine it? How do you make it better? I've had a coach for 25 years, I've been coached. And I'll never forget the first time I wrote that check. Worst case of buyer's remorse. I couldn't understand why I wrote a check for $1,000, but it was the best money I ever spent. I've spent, and this is no lie, $180,000 on coaching over 25 years. But here's what I've realized is my business has grown 25% a year, every year, year after year, as a direct result of being coached. Because I take these ideas, I take these tweaks, and I implement them, and then they hold me accountable to the implementation to see the result. And if the results don't work, we rechange it and go back and do something different. That's the power in having a coach, somebody in your corner that can help you refine where you're at and what you're doing. The coach isn't going to tell you what to do. They're just going to help you self-realize what you already know.
That's powerful. Yeah. Mentorship, coaching, life coach, business coach. I am a huge proponent in that for sure. I got a mentor, was blessed to have a mentor me early on in my multifamily syndication journey. And I don't believe that I'd be where I am today if it wasn't for him. Actually, I know I wouldn't be, because the first deal we bought from him. He sold it to us. And so it was really cool to be going full circle there and him trust us. And we didn't even go through a broker. It was just us and him. It was really cool that I was able to do something like that. And I wouldn't have been able to had I not had the mentor or the coach. So that's awesome. Okay. So Mike, what do you think the biggest lesson that you learned from that experience was?
From going to prison?
Yeah.
Oh, listen, I kind of told you, I wrote a list of 30 things that I did wrong. And it's everything that I've kind of mentioned, Josh. It's undercapitalized, over leveraged, paid too much for properties, had the wrong business partner. Okay. I thought I had people doing things in my company that weren't getting done, and I thought they were getting done. So I buried my head in the sand. I didn't pay attention. I didn't look at enough KPIs. So, you know, it's that kind of a list. I didn't pay attention to the red flags. My offering documents were written poorly. So because I put things in them that I wanted to put in them to cater to my investors, and I should have never done that. So we learn by our mistakes. Sometimes the mistakes are more painful than others, but I know today in my business that as I start to raise money again and syndicate deals again, that all of that will be a lot different. And that those changes that I implement will make me be a stronger businessman and a stronger owner operator.
That is fantastic. Okay, Mike. Well, we are now going to transition into the next segment of the show called the Pod Deck segment, where we get to add a little bit of comedy in here.
All right.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Pod Decks, but it's a company that makes decks of cards with questions on the back of them.
Oh.
You got a ton of different, probably hundreds of different decks at this point, but I've got a deck here. So what we're going to do is it's going to be like pick a card.
Gosh.
This is going to be like pick a card, any card, and you're going to pick two, and we're just going to ask the two questions. So tell me when to stop. You ready for this?
Maybe.
Okay. First question. Who would you most like to sit next to on a 10-hour flight and why?
I'm going to say Jesus.
Yeah. If that was a possibility, that would be awesome.
So are you qualifying this? I mean, does somebody have to be alive or?
No, it could be anybody.
Actually, I'd like to sit next to Sam Zell on a 10-hour flight and pick his brain.
What if he didn't want to talk to you? What if he was asleep?
I'm tenacious, remember?
Like, hey, wake up. I got questions.
Hey, how about this here?
Okay, next question. What's something that people think makes them look cool, but you think actually makes them look ridiculous?
Skinny jeans.
Skinny jeans. That must be your generation hating on the skinny jeans. I honestly am not a huge fan of skinny jeans either, but I see so many people wear them.
I'm a relaxed fit kind of guy.
Me too. My wife actually just got me into like a tighter lower fit to where like the bottom of the legs get a little tight, but the top of the pants is still the relaxed loose fit. She was like, that way it kind of looks like you look slimmer, but you're still getting to wear this relaxed fit. And they're actually pretty comfortable. I kind of like them. Not going to lie. Not going to lie. I think I fall into that segment. Okay. We're going to go ahead and transition now into the last segment of the show called the Core Four, which is the same four questions we ask every guest. The first question, what is your favorite real estate related book?
Best real estate book I have ever read is The Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. I believe that the strategies, techniques, the systems in that book are priceless, timeless. I actually taught those principles for years to real estate investors.
Yeah, I read that book. It's a really great book. Probably needed to just review it again. I always feel like I get something new out of a book if I read it a second time. Yeah, I feel like I probably need to get a refresher. All right. Next question. What do you think your unique skill is that helped you become successful?
I don't wear blinders and I think way outside of the box. I don't just think out of the box. I think outside of the box. I believe that it comes from a quote I heard, or Tony Robbins said years ago, that if you ask the right questions, ask better questions, you get better answers. And he gives an example: write a question down and write 20 answers to the question. So when you're trying to figure something out, write that question down. How am I going to go raise $6 million in 30 days, right? Write that question down, write 20 answers down for it. And your answer's not in the first 5, it's in the last 3. That's where you really had to roll your sleeves up and dig into things. So I'm creative in that way, but I'm also creative in how to make money in a apartment syndication deal where I can bring an ancillary product in, put an amenity in place, do something else that generates other revenue for those apartment communities.
Wow, I'd love to pick your brain on that. Being that that's exactly what I meant. Any possible opportunity for increasing revenue and decreasing expenses is always something I'm interested in.
Do you have a coach?
I don't have like a life coach, just the mentor that helps me on the business side of things. I need a coach. It's just I don't have the capital yet.
I'll send you an application.
All right, Mike. That sounds like a plan. Okay, next question. Tell me something that's true about real estate that almost nobody agrees with you on.
If you have a gut feeling that a deal's not right, no matter what everything else says, walk away from the deal. Do not fall in love. So I've been in situations where I have absolutely loved a deal. And all of a sudden something happened where I went, uh-oh, this isn't right. And if I bought that deal, it went sideways. So you have to pay attention to your gut as a real estate investor. It's not always book smart and it's not always number smart. What's your gut say?
I like that. Okay. Last question. What one piece of advice would you give to our listeners wanting to succeed in real estate investing?
Get started. Come off the sidelines, get in the game, and don't give up easily. I think people give up easily today. This doesn't work. There's a shiny object over here. They go run after that. There's another one down the road. They go run after that one. Stay the course. Stay focused on what you do. Hone your skill set and stay the course.
Absolutely. I have a little bit of shiny object syndrome. I'm really good at staying focused, but I do get, I feel like everyone has those thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, especially me being the host of this podcast, I bring on a lot of people that have some extremely creative and awesome ways that they are making money in real estate. And I'm like, well, dang, maybe I should try something like that. And it's like, no, I need to stay with my niche and I need to grow that before I consider maybe diversifying a little bit later. But yeah, I like that. Okay. Mike, if anybody wants to learn more about you and your business, how can people get in touch with you?
So one thing I'd like to invite all your listeners, if they want to grab a copy of my book, Exit Plan, that they're more than welcome to. They can download a copy off the website. Go to mycoreintentions.com/exit plan. And you can download your copy for free. Josh, go grab a copy for yourself. I think you'll enjoy the read, especially where you're at in your business. And if you want to reach me, just send me an email, mike@mycoreintentions.com. I'd be more than happy to chat with anybody. I'm always looking to connect and build new connections. So,
wow. So everyone gets a free copy of the book, myself included. I'll have to go check that out and give it a good read. Mike, this has been awesome. The fact that you have gone through so much and you overcame the obstacles that every investor goes through twice is incredible. That you started from scratch and you did it again. I've heard a lot of people say, what if you could start all over? Would you do it differently? Or what if you went back to $0 and you had to start over? What would you do? And a lot of people give those scenarios. And so the fact that that's actually happened to you and you were able to overcome that, I think is really powerful. And I know I got a lot out of this. I'm sure the listeners did as well. So I really just want to thank you for coming out on the show with us.
Thanks for having me, Josh. I appreciate it.
All right. See you later. Wow, guys, that was so incredibly powerful. I learned more in this show than I think I have in the last few shows. Not to diminish any of the other shows now, because Vinny and Brian Burke, they were all extremely helpful in their knowledge of real estate. But Mike just had a different perspective. He had a perspective on the business and just on life, of how to, the idea and of overcoming these obstacles and being tenacious and having that tenacity to continue to push forward and do bigger and better things. And the lessons, the fact that he went through what he went through and took a ton of lessons out of that, and then really did more in prison than he did when he was not in prison. You know what I mean? Like writing books, getting his theology degree, doing the college thing, teaching people, going out and doing these speaking things. The fact that he had the opportunity to do all that and that he took advantage of the opportunity to do all that is massive. And I guess if there's any parting thing I could say right here at the end, it's take advantage of those opportunities. Get started, ask the right questions, and just go make it happen, guys. I hope you guys learned a ton out of this. I know I did. I will probably be listening to the show a few more times, but that's all I got for you guys this week. This is Josh Ferrari signing off.